Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the feature news for today, 1st of March 2022. The feature news for today is on understanding India's stance in the Russia-Ukraine war. Before we get into this article, I would like to welcome all of you here. Who are here? We have Hima, Bhabani, Amlan, Ashish, Kriti, Netra, Vakram, Kim, yes. And then other people joining in. Tiyasha, good evening and welcome. Ravi, welcome back. Kanupriya, welcome. Hi Vivek. Vasudev, good evening. And then Vasudev has a question. Vivek, would you like to explain the meaning of this sentence? Hi Ravi. Vasudev, the answer to your question is there are some schemes that have been released with the budget that we have discussed in one of the videos by Nanki ma'am. Also, the schemes which were initiated the last year, they are not in any way less relevant. So many of the schemes, government schemes, the objective that I had discussed once is three-faceted. The objective of government of UPSC asking the questions, they're three-faceted. One, they want to know what is the agency which has released that particular scheme. The second, what is the objective of the scheme itself? And third, who is the beneficiary? These are mostly the kind of questions that are asked by UPSC, the easy ones, the low-hanging fruits. If they want to ask a tough question, they will ask here also, and it will be tough for us to, make a guess also for a question. But majorly, these are the things if one knows about any government scheme, this is relevant. So many of the schemes we keep discussing in current affairs. And there are some schemes which have gotten renewed. We have discussed that again in the current affairs. Having said that, the schemes discussed last year in August, they also become decently relevant for you. Why? Because when we discuss these schemes in the month of August and you have the exam schedule the next year, this was discussed in the year August 2021, and the exam schedule in June 2022 will have the scheme coverage, my dear friend. This must be covered. That is the point. There are 24 videos, short videos, 6-8 minute videos, watch at 2x speed and you would be able to understand that, right? So if there are any schemes, we will try that. We will cover that in a separate video as well. Also, questions, doubts, please keep posting so that we are able to help you there, right? So Vasudev, not to worry about that. If there is something in news, we will cover that. If you would like to cover those schemes covered previously, that will be immensely beneficial for you. All right. Bhavani says it looks like Mahana Pratap and Akbar war. All right. So let's go ahead with this feature news for today. Now, understanding the stance of India is not only dependent on India and Russia relationship. This is dependent on many other factors. For example, the economy of our country. This is also dependent on US presence in the Indo-Pacific. The relationship or the kind of stance India has shared is also dependent on many other parameters. For example, presence of Pakistan, presence of China, the kind of activism that Russia, Pakistan and China axis is also playing. Now, India needs to have a balanced stand. This is one of the ways in which India is presenting its stand by keeping its strategic autonomy to itself, by abstaining from procedural vote and at United Nations Security Council. And this is not the first time that India has done this. So to understand this article, there is a major contribution of economy that I understand plays, right? It is not only diplomacy and finances, it is economy and strategy as well, especially geostrategy. So I will show this to you with a good number of data which will prove a lot of points about India's stance. All right, so let's begin this discussion. All right. To begin with, now these will be random excerpts of data, but then they will prove a lot of points. This is not just about India now, this is about the whole world. So maybe 15 minutes around the data itself, and you will be able to understand what is the kind of relationship that Russia shares with the whole world. So we will understand what is the stance of India accordingly. Now in this image, this is about EU imports from and exports to Russia, European Union relationship with Russia. Russia, whatever funds it had, it would not only invest in its own country, but also in other economies. we had East European economies. Not only that, Germany, France, UK, Russia has got its investment in those countries as well. When you look at the imports of European Union imports, mineral fuels, 76% of imports of mineral fuels in European Union, and export of machinery and transport products. Both the industries will get impacted because of these sanctions, and more so the SWIFT transactions, right, getting barred. So you see the export of mineral to EU will get impacted, and the import of machinery and transport equipments will get impacted. This is one thing to note. Look at the bilateral exchange between India and Russia. So around $8 billion of trade, $8 to $10 billion of trade. India exports around 2.5, around $6-7 billion is what India imports, right? So what do they majorly export? We will cover this one in just a short while. And if you look at Germany here, specifically one economy, that is Germany, which was reluctant to impose sanctions against Russia. One of the major importers is Russia itself. So Germany, one of the major country where it receives its imports is Russia, and it is also on the top 10 list of exporters. These are $40 billion of imports from Russia and $36 billion of exports to Russia. And these data are not the recent data. This is 2013, whatever I have been able to get right now. Point I'm mentioning is after 13, when there were sanctions because of the Crimean attack, there was a decrease in complete export-import with European economies. That is true, but still Germany has a major chunk, right? As you know, the Nord Stream 1 and 2, both of them are relevant for Germany, right? So share of Russian natural gas exports by destination, Germany has 24% proportion of Russian natural gas exports, almost 24%. That was 2013, but don't think it is less because they built another Nord Stream, right? East European, another 24%, Turkey 20%, and then other Western European countries as well. So Germany receives a major proportion of fuel, especially from Russia, and Germany is the most advanced economy in Europe, right? So this is another thing to garner. So keep noting, first mineral fuels imported to Europe and especially Germany, and then machinery transport, this industry of Europe will get impacted, especially a country like Germany. This is another point. And when you look at the trade, now this is what I want to indicate. See, after the sanctions of 2014, you see the kind of trade Germany does with Russia, it dropped from $100 billion to less than $60 billion, and it is only declining. So Russia slowly and steadily has also moved away from it, and so has Germany. How? Germany has diversified sources. USA has been providing cheaper gases. So USA's advantage, absolutely. On the other hand, how has Russia diversified? After 2014 sanctions against Russia, Russia itself imposed sanctions on European countries. For example, the food products. Russia is a colder place, so it would import a lot of food products from European market. And these European countries have also faced some consequences of this sanction. On the other hand, Russia came close to who? Mr. China. It came close to Mr. China. And because of this, China has said, fine, we will take the gases from you, right? Cheaper gases, sell to us also. We will take it. We have huge consumption. So Russia-China relationships thrived after the year 2014. And this is how Russia has been able to sustain. This is how they have been able to also gather up forex reserves. So start noting down these because I will start linking them towards the end. On the other hand, when you see US trade with Russia, see, it was only growing, right? So the complete trade of around $100 billion, around that much only. And when you see the age, see, the first drop is 2008. What is the drop? This drop is that of the global war, the global financial crisis. And after that, when it rose very well, right? And you look at the kind of export and imports, right? So around $100 billion, $80 billion. But then immediately after 2014, there were sanctions and it all dropped back, right? So USA-Russia relationship with trade, because no matter whatever they speak, if they are trading, that means they are good relationships. Similar is the example of India and China, right? One of the largest trading partners of India is China. Even when they are speaking against each other, even when somehow indirectly we are funding Chinese incursions in India because we are paying for those kind of imports to India. Same with USA and China, $700 billion plus trade. This is only $100 plus billion, $700 plus billion of trade between USA and China, and they keep barking at each other. Yet, point being that trade actually matters. Trade is the actual representative of the kind of relationship that these countries have. See, amongst these countries, many of them are democracies, right? And the governments come and go, they fall with time. But the industrialists, the financiers, the investors, they still remain same for their whole lifetime. And they are the one who are actually driving the kind of relationship that the countries have. The premiers change, but these people, business persons, they remain same. And therefore, this business determines what is the kind of actual relationship that the countries share. The countries which were hardest hit by Russia during 2014 trade ban, they were Poland, Norway, Netherlands, Spain, USA, Germany, Denmark, France, Canada. Although only to the tune of one and a half and $500 million, but they received this setback. Somebody did face that setback, majorly in food, processed and products. Right? This is the old times, but then all I want to share with you is the perspective that there is a loss to all the sides. But look at the kind of trade that has grown between India and China. Now, I'm sharing random facts, but they will get linked. India and China, there has been a huge growth lately, 2020 and 2021. See, this is the low base effect also. So imagine that. And there has been a quite decent growth in imports. Export has also grown, but import has also proportionally grown with time. So India-China trade has grown with time, right? And when you see the kind of imports that we have from China, let me show this to you. When it comes to the imported products that we have from China, they are largely the manufactured products. And what we export to China are the raw minerals. This is a very, very big issue with our country. What we export is the raw product, and what we get back is the finished product. We export to them iron ore, we export to them organic chemicals, we export to them residual chemicals, we export to them aluminium and products of aluminium and iron and steel. And what do we import from them? We import electronic components from them. How did they get formed? Through our residual chemicals, through iron and steel, through whatever they also had. Yes, we import telecom instruments, we import computer hardware, organic chemicals. See, we exported organic chemicals, but what we are importing is organic chemicals again, which are more processed, electronic instruments, electronic machinery, bulk drugs and APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients. Point being that we are not processing, we are not value adding to our products, we are giving them the product for value addition, and we are importing those products back from China again, right? I would like to show you a couple of images related to this. All right, we'll show that to you later. So point being that the export and import basket for India's trade is absolute, and this is the latest figure. That data is for January to May 2021 by Indian Commerce Ministry. So this is where we have to completely change the scenario, right? So if you have heard of the basic goods, the intermediate goods, the capital goods and consumer goods. Capital goods is what we are importing, right? And what are we giving them? We are giving them the basic goods and intermediate goods. So this is how Chinese economy is prospering. Although our export is also increasing, but why are we exporting the raw products? Why not create the products and export this to China? See, such a major barrier to us, right? I will link this. So keep noting this. And let's look at the trade between Russia and India. This is where the impact, this is where the theme of the impact of Russia and Ukraine lies with India. What do we export? So $9.4 billion of trade, right? And it also grew from $8 billion. So such a major economy, major stakeholders, yet the kind of trade is not very much. So what we import from Russia is around $2 billion of fuel, mineral oil, agricultural products, and coal, pearls, fertilizers, boil machinery, precious stones, nuclear reactors, and defense products. This is what we import from them. So around 1/5 of it is import of fuel. Then we have agriculture products like sunflower and mineral oil, machinery, mechanical devices, fertilizers. What we export to them is less, right? Electrical, machinery, pharmaceutical, nuclear reactors, vehicle. Now see, if we export to them pharmaceutical products, also there will be an impact, $500 million, but then we export humongous quantity of pharmaceutical to other countries also. So impact is not as much felt as it will be felt on fuel, for example, gas reserves, as it is felt on agriculture. Why? Because sunflower will also be manufactured in a place like Ukraine. See, so agriculture products that we import from Ukraine is $1.35 billion of sunflower oil, which is already, the mineral oil is already facing crunch in India, price rise, and this will further face this inflation and directly hit who? All the people who are using oil. And India is an economy which is famous for using oil, right? We use fried food, no, deep fried food, metallurgical products, plastic polymers. This is what we import. What do we export to them? Pharmaceutical. So export is also very less, right? The trade is hardly $2.5 billion. So export will impact, but not very much with Ukraine. So what do we have in advantage is the kind of trade relations that Russia has with the European Union. So if you remember, if you look at the kind of basket of trade that Russia has with the European Union, that should give hint into what kind of impact it will have. So if India can give them fuel, that will be good. Can we give them fuel? No, not directly. But then what about International Solar Alliance? India has expanded the horizon of International Solar Alliance beyond the Tropic of Cancer. You know that very well. Beyond the tropics. If it has happened, India and France can lead this partnership to provide this kind of avenue of, having a fuel growth in these countries, especially European countries. This is one thing that we can help them in. Can we help them in machinery and transport export? See, those countries deal with Volvo, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and all these kind of trucks and machinery and transport devices. Whether they will want to drive our Tata and Ashoka Leyland and these brands, I am not sure. Eicher Motors, I am not sure. These Indian brands, they would suit them or not. So point being, animal, vegetable oils, beverages, chemicals. Yeah, beverages we can sell them. We can sell them the hooch. the fake methyl alcohol can we sell them? No, we cannot. Manufactured goods. So largely the point is, we are not very well equipped to exchange all this, but yes, what we can actually export to them is wheat, because the wheat basket, Donbas region, thank you Amlan yesterday for this. So this wheat can be exported. We will get hard hit with the mineral oil resources. We will get hard hit with the global inflation in oil. We will get hit through FDI, all that explained earlier yesterday. We'll get hit through depreciation of the value of Indian currency, which leads to expensive imports. Bhai, ye sab jaan lo. This is very important, because economy will ask, economy portion for pre-exam asks questions from these ends only. This is what I have seen, right? General trends and general concepts. So this is how we will get hit. But can we exchange this for Russia? No, not very well. You can see indirect benefits only. And if India and France have to help, France rather help. No, France would rather help him. So this is the current situation. And see, these renewable resources will take a while. These are also not tropical countries, temperate countries. So sunlight is not as much available in Great Britain. All right. So moving ahead, the impact will be felt quite a bit. But see, the map of India, please excuse me, the point is only to show you that this is the kind of impact these countries have. Just showing through map. Of course, Kashmir has not been represented rightly, but please let's focus on this important part and forgive me for this. What I want to share with you is that this is Ukraine and this is Russia. The impact can be felt in complete geography as well. So when you look at the kind of imports that Pakistan is looking at, when Pakistan met the Russian premier just during the times of war, they said that this was pre-planned and we met them. So Pakistan has been requesting for a pipeline between Pakistan and Central Asian economies. Pakistan has been looking for a pipeline from Karachi to interiors in Punjab, West Punjab, that is Pakistan's Punjab. Russia to be the one who should be creating it. And Russia says, let's work with Tapi first. So Pakistan says, fine, we will work it out. We'll work that out also. So this is what, Russia ke liye, when Pakistan Premier Mr. Khan went, this is what was the main conversation. And it was already predetermined that there would be a meeting. This was not dependent on the war at all, right? So this is one thing to note. Moving ahead to understanding some more important things, look at the kind of, and please remember, with the help of Russia, India was also to expand into Central Asia region, no? With the help of Russia. So SCO was an important, summit in which India would have presented its defense, its trade ties, its economy, its investments in Central Asia, SCO. And Russia is one of the leaders in SCO platform. It was through Russia's insistence that India got a membership at SCO. and Pakistan got the membership in the same year, 2017, at China's insistence. So there is a balance of both the presence, both the important stakeholders, India and Pakistan in SCO, but then India needs the support of Russia here, right? And China is already supporting Pakistan. Now this is where you should also look at the North-South corridor that these countries wanted to get formed. Remember, through Caspian Sea and road and water barrages, we wanted to reach out to Russia and to Europe also. Both the countries through North-South corridor. Remember the Chennai-Vladivostok corridor that we are speaking of? And then moving ahead to the Arctic region, if not ARC report, if assessment report, AR6 report speaks of the Arctic region, which will be completely free of the ice at least once a year after 2050. This is what the report first part spoke of. The physical, remember the physical basics, the basic sciences report, the first report. So when it spoke of this, it spoke that the Arctic region would be completely ice free at least once a year after 2050. India is looking at exploring the Arctic region with the help of Russia. Technology transfer, movement across the alternate channels. India will get alternate channels, and India also has a logistic exchange agreement with Russia, with Japan, with South Korea, with so many other countries here. India will have a wider presence at Asia Pacific or Indo-Pacific. Call that Indo-Pacific. See, that happens only when India is quiet or India is indirectly watching what is happening, right? Many other countries are also doing it. I will show this to you. Look at the Russia and China trade right now. Russia-China trade, it increased after 2014 sanctions. See, a couple of years down, but after that, the kind of trade has almost exceeded $200 billion. It is only because of increased imports of petroleum products from Russia to China, and also China exporting some manufactured products from China to Russia. So China-Russia relations have only increased with time. This is the relationship that we see right now, increasing of the bilateral trade with both the countries. What do they export and import? Russian exports to China are mineral fuel, largely 62%. This is latest figures, International Monetary Fund, IMF. And then the maximum imports that Russia has are again machine equipments. The same imports that Russia replaced from who? European economies. So Russia has found its partner in China. This is what I want to mention. It does not even need India for that matter. But India needs Russia a little more than Russia needs India. As simple as that, right? But what about China's stand right now in the war? I read this very clearly. China earlier was saying, no, we are, our ties knows no bounds. Both the countries have said this. Our ties know no bounds. No bounds, no boundaries of the ties. We will, innumerable areas of cooperation, every area of cooperation. This is what was declared before the war started. But right now, Chinese arms of investments in Singapore, they have withheld the investments in Russia. They have withheld the investments and some trade pacts in Russia. So China is somehow, and who is doing this? Is it, China's individuals, investors? No, my dear friend. China is very similar, works very similar to the pattern of Russia. When I told to you yesterday how, with due regards to Mr. Putin and Mr. Xi Jinping, both of these people, Chinese and Russian premier, the industries are completely, they operate how these premiers talk about. So when there is a restriction of trading with Russia, this is an indication, the news of today itself, possibly China is trying to restrict itself with this engagement. China had already declared that it does not, peaceful settlement of war. Exactly what India stood for. China has said the same thing without condemning Russia right now. It just said when the war began that there must be de-escalation, there must be peaceful settlement. This is what they said. They did not mention Russia. But now when transactions are getting cut short, this is where they must also, are making the presence felt in some way or the other. So you see, China-Russia partnership is only increasing with time. This is an indication. On the other hand, let's move to defense ties. They are very, very significant. Arms import from Russia to India and China, 1990 to 2015. All right. So the blue mark, and this is SIPRI, Stockholm, right? SIPRI report. So when you see the red marks, they are for China, and the blue marks are for import to India. The import to India have drastically increased with time. See, this is 2012, 13 and 14. The imports have increased. And China was importing quite a lot from 1999 to 2006 until when they developed their own technology. China developed their own technology. Now indigenous technologies, their fighters are being sold around. Yeah, Pakistan has purchased them. So that's a different point, that Pakistan, how did it get the money? Was it credit or was it that? It is also being said that China has actually is happily to invest in these kind of projects. China has, it is not that Pakistan has purchased these J-10. On the other hand, China has garnered or achieved itself a military base, air base in Pakistan. That's it. So instead of Pakistan purchasing it, China has got an additional base. This is the way China takes it. It is like an investment for China, just like how USA did. Look at the kind of strategies these countries play. USA installed weapons at Poland, installed weapons at the countries along the Ukrainian border, and USA has nothing to do right now with it, right? Nothing to do, just install these weapons. China is doing the same in our neighborhood, right? So you see the kind of increase in imports by China from Russia during the last decade, but lately India's imports have increased. But after this, after 2013-14, these imports have also decreased because India has also diversified. Israel, USA, many other countries India has started looking at for its defense imports. So you see, the defense business also is not very thriving. But you know what was most striking for India? It was that, see, the kind of relationship that Russia and Pakistan share, that was also not very pleasant. It was bitter because Russia was in support of India during the Cold War times and USA was in support of Pakistan. So Russia had imposed an arms embargo against Pakistan, and it was a four decade from 70s to 2010-11, and then 2011 they removed this arms embargo against Pakistan. And what did they give them? They gave them Mi-35 helicopter. Do we have it? Oh yes, we also have it. This is smaller than the Mi-17 helicopter, but again, state-of-the-art, good helicopter. They have given it to Pakistan. India was shocked. India was surprised. Ye kya kar rahe ho bhai? What are you doing? So Russia also has its stance. It was not affected by India's stand, right? Although India's export did increase, but now it is decreased also, no? India's import. So you see this kind of increase of imports to Pakistan also. But are they substantial? No, not at all. Pakistan is nowhere in the scene. I will show that to you. Look at this figure, India's arms import. So India's arms import were, blue is Russia, you know, went ahead and then increased, and then after that it decreased. Now it has only decreased. India has diversified. India has also imported from USA. India has also imported from other sources, right? Other sources, the gray color is the other sources, which was less earlier. Russia has decreased right now, and other sources India has diversified. So it is a great step when we diversify. This is what Russia also says. We have also diversified our exports to Pakistan and other places, right? So this is one thing to note. Also, this image is indicative of the trade relation between European Union and Russia. See, the times when the trade decreased, import or export, were the times of global crisis, financial crisis, and post 2014. It decreased for a while, but then it again started to increase, right? It has decreased right now again. Let's see what happens in the future. But when we look at Pakistan and Russia trade, this is largely almost nil. This is millions of dollars. This is not even $1 billion complete trade that we are showing here right now. And by the way, I had to look into Pakistan's website to serve you people here. So looking at India's websites, fine. Looking at IMF and World Bank website, fine. But this now Pakistan Bureau of Statistics, they have said that the total trade is to the tune of around $500 million, not billion, 2019. And yes, of course, the trade balance is in the favor of Russia itself. So, isme kya aega? What will they purchase? One helicopter, two helicopters, whatever it is. So, whatever it is, the point being that the trade is not very much. So, when they talk of relationships, Pakistan and Russia relationships, it is largely about building pipelines, giving some supplies, countering India. But Russia would not play that move, you know, a stronger move, just like China would. Like China is installing its military bases in Pakistan, that Russia would not do. So this is where you should look at major arms supplier. Who are the suppliers to Pakistan? So when you look at China, the supplies have only increased with time. This is the timeline of 2000 to 2005, and then 6 to 10, 2011 to 20, and 16 to 20. Yes, I know I am throwing a lot of data, but then this will be utilized throughout, my dear friends. So have this. You see the kind of exports to Pakistan that Pakistan has from China is at only rise. And what about Russia? No, very less. Not even $300 million. But look at the kind of arms import from USA. It had increased during the Afghan war and it further decreased later, and now it has decreased furthermore. So Pakistan imports from China, Russia, Italy, Sweden, USA, Ukraine, France. The first one is, look at this beautiful analysis. Look at this beautiful analysis. The first one is China, the second one is USA, and the third one is France. Oh my dear, how is it possible? USA, we thought of it as an ally. France, we thought of an ally, but they export to Pakistan also. Why is it possible? And fourth is Russia. We have considered all of them as ally. It is because the world belongs to the industrialists. The world belongs to the traders. As simple. I am just sharing, and they are not sharing food, and they are not sharing, machines and electrical components. They are sharing weapons to them. France, Ukraine, USA, Russia. We consider them as friends. No. So that's what the point is. It comes very clear. And who is sharing this? Oh my dear, I have not created this. This is CIPRI against all kind of weaponry happening. These are opinions that you can build from, right? This world belongs to the people who are doing trade, right? And the developed countries are the ones which are doing it, right? This is Pakistan-China trade flow, only increase with time. Okay, great representation. It is because of the free trade agreement between Pakistan and China. All right. And when you look at India, this is India. This is Pakistan. Yes, Pakistan. This is Pakistan. Absolutely. Pakistan's total import, 30% of it is from China. And then we also considered UAE as a friend. No, UAE, 12% plus of imports from UAE to Pakistan. How is it possible? Yes, it is possible because there are trade ties between these countries. If India has a good diaspora presence in UAE, 25%, the second most important diaspora presence is from Pakistan to UAE. So yes, the culture is similar. And when you look at Japan, another 4% imports to Pakistan from Japan. Similarly, Saudi Arabia, most expected, all right, fine. But Qatar, USA, 5% imports from USA to Pakistan. Point I'm mentioning is, why do we see many allies, Indian allies in Pakistan imports? It is because the world belongs, to the people who are investing here, right? So what are the kind of imports? Major exports to China. See, Pakistan export bucket is also very similar. Cotton exports, right? Fish exports, rice export. They export cotton and rice, the raw products. And what they import is electrical equipments, machinery, reactors, iron and steel equipments, organic chemicals. Others mein aa jayega weapons, what they hardly possess, right? And this is India. India's made major participators: China, USA, UAE, Iraq. This is where we import majorly from. Saudi. So from Iraq and Saudi, what we import is petroleum. What we import from USA, a lot of items. What we import from China, everything. What we import from USA, quite a lot of petroleum. Right. So this is an update. What else do I want to share? Yes, have a look at this. The kind of exports that we have, the kind of imports that we have to India. Import. Capital good import is the maximum in our country. Capital good import. And then the other good, consumer and raw material import. Raw material import is the least in India, but what we majorly import is the capital good, consumer goods. When consumer are consuming, let us allow them to consume what is branded in India or made in India. Similarly, when people are using the capital goods, these are the goods which are going to get utilized for furthering our production. Let us make in India, but we are dependent on China. See, so when we look at all these figures, let's start coming to the conclusion. When India is importing capital goods from China, when India is having decent relationship with Russia, and if India does not take that stand, Russia will further, of course it is already related very much to China. Russia will have a further intensified relationship with China, and India, whatever access it had to the East Indo-Pacific region, the South China Sea region, the East China Sea region, that will further get decreased with Russia. The alliance will get decreased further. Russia's engagement with Pakistan also possibly will increase. Look at the example of USA itself. how USA has strategized and moved. See, not defending what Russia is doing to Ukraine. I'm not defending that. All I'm saying is that there are other people to be also held accountable. USA has to be held accountable. European Union also has to play a role. I have heard innumerable speeches of Putin, and in which he clearly says, I am not the one who's to be blamed primarily. And he's been saying this for years now. I am not the one who has to be primarily blamed for this. You should look at United Nations, he has said this. At multiple platforms, he has said that it is USA. They have defied on many agreements between us, and they are doing it right now as well, right? So this is how you see the impact on India. See what all right. So top 9 exports to China that we have, and top 9, yeah, we have discussed this. All right. And when we speak of this kind of relationship, India being a major, central player between Russia and China, this is not actually so. The actual players are these two, and India should not be sidelined in this game. That is the reason that India needs to balance and counterbalance its strategies. This is the main agenda, right? This is one thing that India looks at, that we should not be sidelined. They should not become friends. But I have shown this to you already. China is importing fuel, and Russia is importing electronics and machinery parts from China. Right? They have already formed an alliance. It was well planned that even if sanctions would be imposed on Russia, Russia will carry out its business, diversify its source of earnings, diversify its source of business, right? Hence proved. But what about EU? So let's look at EU, because EU has also got decent trade with India. Can India increase some imports? So what India exports to EU right now is clothing, agricultural food, chemicals, gemstones, buses. So Tata ki buses chal jayengi, matlab. Tata buses already they run. Tata, Ashoka, Eicher, they already run in Africa. Looks like Eastern Europe can also utilize these buses. Footwear, iron and steel, leather articles, right? Pharma also. So this is what we will be able to export in a better way to European countries, right? Utilize the situation at some ways and be able to feel lesser impact in some other ways. India has abstained from procedural vote. We all know that, and we also studied that now United Nations General Assembly is taking up this. So this procedural vote was also done during the times of invasion of Crimea, right? So during those times, it was just similar when India also abstained during those times, right? So similar repetition, but India is being forced to take a stand here. But what explains India's stand is whatever you call it, that we have been using: astute diplomacy, strategic ambiguity. Now you know what is the ambiguity for. Because the Russia, China and Pakistan axis is also increasing with time. Russia has also, after 2016 attack on India, India said, "Mat karo, don't go ahead with exercises with Pakistan." But Russia went ahead with military exercises with Pakistan, right? So yes. So when you see the kind of middle ground India is trying to achieve, India says we honor the principles of international law, United Nations Charter. It says all. It just doesn't name Russia. It just says that, okay, we will speak to Russian president. We will also try to convince him not to impose war. But then not clearly naming Russia. What does Russia gain in this? An indirect advantage that India is with them. Okay, that is sufficient for now. So honoring the principles of international law, UN Charter, lacked condemnation of Russian attack on Ukraine. Did China condemn? No, China did not condemn. But China is distancing. Yes, it is distancing slowly, as per whatever I have read in newspapers right now. So Chinese banks in Singapore, they have refused some SWIFT payments, because see, these kind of payments will get caught up. No, they will face the losses. They will pay it to Russia, but then they might not get the payment from Russia, right, later on. So that is the reason that they have refrain from these payments. They might not affect or represent Chinese stance, but this represent the stand of the investors. They don't want to invest in Russia right now, right? So this is the situation. They are calling for immediate de-escalation. Now see, yesterday or day before, a lot of us were quite interested to know what is the stand and why is India not taking a pro-Russian stand or against Russia stand. Now you know it better, that this is all about finances and economy. Right? It is about India's access to East Asia. It is about India's strategic partnership and technological know-how which Russia is able to provide. Who provided BrahMos to us? Did we have technology by ourselves? No. Russia along with India, they created this BrahMos. And when they have created supersonic BrahMos, right, with the range of 500 kilometers plus, how did we get that? See, Russia has been India's time-tested partner, a friend of in the times of need. So when you look at India's participation in various treaties, for example, missile technology control regime, Russia helped India entering this. That is how the range of BrahMos exceeded from 300 to now 500 and then planning for 800. Look at S-400, the best offensive weapon available in the whole world, right? In the whole world, and Russia has it. It can provide India that technological know-how. Several times I shared with you how Russia has vetoed those kind of resolutions which were against India in 1971 war. Right. Russia has helped India during those times. Not only that, in 1980s, when India wanted some technological know-how on its space missions, the GSLV, the launch vehicle, it wanted to send its satellites to 36,000 kilometer height, the high Earth orbit. India did not have it. So India said, fine, you give us 6 of these GSLV and we will utilize them. India, why? We use the screwdriver technology, yet we were able to re-engineer our own satellites. This is not a successful program for India, but India learned it from Russia only. That's the point I'm making. Russia was the one which was helpful. And now it is also partnering. When we look at the partnership with Russia for creating the defense corridor in Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh, yes, this is the country. France is the country which is helping. So this is the reason when we are not charged emotionally, we look at things rationally. India is looking at things rationally. Even China is looking rationally. We are not getting emotional on this, right? Yes. When you look at, yes, yesterday there was another news that Indian students at Polish border or other borders, they were thrashed, they were beaten, or they were not even allowed to enter. On the other hand, when I looked at some other Twitter reports, they said that no, it is not so. Madam, please confirm your reports or sources. These are fake news. So this is one. On the other hand, if at all that is happening, this has to be condemned, right? But who is happy and who is not happy? Russia is happy. The European Union nations, East European countries, they are not happy with this stand, and Ukraine is also not happy with this stand that India is not mentioning the name. See, for Russia, this is a pro-Moscow stand, pro-Moscow stand. And what about weakening US global order? USA is getting weaker, China is getting stronger. In this, India cannot ally with China in all the ways, so India is allying with Russia, right? Otherwise, China will become the only one which is stronger in Asia, right? So India finds a decent partner in Russia, especially east of Asia, in Russia, right? So this is the reason that India has a pro-Russian stand, right? Also, they have to increase their trade. Absolutely, they do. But then they have a strategic level of trade that they conduct with each other. The technological know-how is very powerful for India's benefit, right? So this is the balancing act that India must apply and use: strategic autonomy, astute diplomacy, strategic ambiguity. Throw these words, right? Use it for your advantage, for the advantage, because you as a future diplomat, as a future IAS officer, IPS officer, you will not be able to take a stand against the Union of India. You will have to justify this stand. If you have a stand different from what the country has represented diplomatically, then you are either switching from the career of a bureaucrat to a politician or a media person, right? You might have to leave your career then. So when you're looking at getting into the service, you should look at this perspective, and also it has got essence, no? It has got meaning for Indian people, all right? But should we condemn? Yes, we must condemn the kind of atrocities that are happening. You use that word also, no? Middle ground, Buddha's middle path. So Russia has hailed India's stance. USA is not happy with this stance. Along with USA, Ukraine has expressed dissatisfaction. As simple. West, the decision to abstain from voting is seen as double standard by the West. So what? What about your double standards? France, I showed you, na? France, Sweden, all these countries. Sweden considered to be one of the peaceful countries, advanced countries, selling weapons. Bofors kahan ke hain? So double standards, you keep speaking, but we will keep doing what is good for us. The war on Ukraine could have major implications for India's strategic calculus. All right. So, as I mentioned, China along with Russia are already an axis in themselves. India must join Russia, must join or show their solidarity with Russia in some way or the other in their growth. See, Russia is not a major economy. Russia has not got a great population, right? It is the biggest country. It is the biggest country area-wise, but in population, it is hardly 20 crore population. Size of Uttar Pradesh. Also among the 10 top countries, but then demand is not very high there. Most of the population resides along Europe. So their trade with Europe is far higher. But then the point is that they know technology. They have a veto power. India can utilize. This is the only ally that we have in the United Nations, right? So when we look at the allies, Russia is the first ally. So what are the stakes? United Nations is one stake. The kind of students and fraternity that we have, business fraternity, that is at stake. The kind of imports that we have from Russia and Ukraine, that is at stake. The exports that possibly could get hit to these places, that is at stake, but that is proportionally very low. So imports will take a hit, right? Exports to Europe, wheat and other products which Russia used to export, Ukraine used to export, we can counter there, absolutely, right? So India is dependent on Russian military hardware, absolutely. S-400, India's prime defense against China and Pakistan, S-400. So this is a big thing. Russia has stopped its supply of S-400 to China. It didn't stop it to India. It is not giving it to Pakistan. And most advanced weaponry system in the world of its kind, right? Now, this is one thing. And by the way, what about Russia and China relationship? See, we have spoken about the flaws in the Russia-China relationship. They've also got some irritants between them. For example, China has also been an aggressor against Russia. Old times, not now, 30, 40 years back, but China has been aggressor, just like they have been occupying our territory at places, and Bhutan's territory, Nepal's territory at places, Myanmar, similarly, and Vietnam's, they were also looking at expanding their territory with Russia. So Russia, when it was not very strong, China would attack like this. There were times, old times, but then you have seen, now you know that they have had their share of problems as well. So pressure from the West on Russia will move it closer to India's adversaries. The pressure from West on Russia will move it closer to India's adversary, China and Pakistan, right? So we know that Pakistan doesn't trade much, it doesn't have a big economy, failed state, but then China is what Russia has actually allied with. And to be able to have a better relationship with Russia, we will have to take a stand like this right now, all right? So this is what is diplomacy about, Kutniti as called in Hindi, right? Not voting with the West to condemn Russia's action will alienate Indian government from Western capitals, just as it seeks to strengthen ties with US, UK and European Union. Yes, this will be the major impact. The kind of trade that we look at for the times to come, this will be the one which will get major hit. So swing state. In USA we have had these swing states, no? Those states where we don't know who are they going to vote for, Republicans or Democrats. So India itself is a swing state with major stakes of many people, right? So because for all the European economies we know what they want, for all the Asian economies we know what they want, right? But India's becomes the swing state. Although India's stand is not material, but then still what they want is polarization. What the countries want is polarization. What India wants is non-polarization. It is working, and if you call this the phrase as a non-aligned state, non-aligned country, no, this is not absolutely true. We are aligned. Look at the feature news that we have discussed on non-aligned. So just type non-aligned Edukemy on YouTube, you'll find it out. India is not a non-aligned state. We are aligned to our own strategic interest. As simple as that. Just like all the other countries are, right? So this is the complete feature news that we have discussed, right? Also, yes. Russia has always taken support of India as far as Kashmir issue is concerned. When there's the international stand of speaking about what is happening in Kashmir, Russia has always favored that India's internal policies should be determined by India itself, and it's fine, right? And so India also scratches a back. India never speaks of Chechnya Muslim and wars there. India never does that. But then when America speaks against India about these kind of issues, which America does, then there is also a retort. India says, what happened in Guatemala? Right? What about the atrocities in Afghanistan? What about the war crimes? What about, so USA also does not favor India's definition of declaring terrorism, right? Because if you consider those definitions, then United States forces have conducted terrorist activities in legitimate governments have conducted terrorist activities in Iraq, in Afghanistan. So you see the kind of equations both countries have, and yet they are stable. Yet America is one of the largest trading partners of India. See? So therefore, in the interest of the people of India, it is not Prime Minister's stand. It is not President's stand. It is the stand of the Union. It has been rationalized by bureaucrats. Prime Ministers will come and go. But what is here to stay is bureaucracy, the smart astute diplomacy that India has. We don't want to get in the crossfire. I actually looked at, see, Prime Ministers, when they meet in world fora, at United Nations, at Conference of Parties, they are asked direct questions. And I heard one of the interviews of Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi, and Mr. Putin was sitting right there. And there was a question from one of the interviewers. They said, it has been said clearly that Mr. Putin helped Trump win the elections in USA. What is your stand on this? The Prime Minister of India clearly said, you have spoken about Mr. Putin. You have spoken about a big man, Mr. Xi Jinping. You have spoken about a few big men, for example, Mr. Biden and Obama. Why are you speaking to a small person like me in this fora? And he smiled. He laughed at it. So sarcasm, satire is the way to deal with these twisted questions. And for these twisted questions, if they come in the examination, we have provided innumerable points, rational points. So do not get caught in the crossfire, just like the diplomats and the ministers, they evade all this. You also got to evade all this, right? You are not going to confront anybody, and your stand will be completely assured, because this is India's stand. All right. So what did we study here? I will discuss the questions that you have. We studied here the Indian stand in the international fora. We understood the kind of China factor, Pakistan factor, European Union factor that plays alongside us. We also understood the kind of relationship that India has with Russia. India and Ukraine, only trade relations, and that too not very, very strong. It is decent, not very strong, right? India also imports some weaponry from Ukraine. Then we also understood the stakes of Pakistan and separate stakes of China, how the Russia and China axis is playing its role, right? We also understood the impact on India. So the impact of India will be some increase in trade, some decrease in trade, greater fall of relationship with East European countries. We don't have much relationship right now. We are looking at, but then what do we look? What is the cost of all this? The cost of all this is greater relationship with a country like Russia, right? So explain India's stance on Russia-Ukraine crisis. Now you can very well explain. Now I know, because you people are smart. That's why. All right. So let's look at what you people have discussed. Oh, by the way, if you like this initiative, shower some love through likes, comments, and shares. That is very important. So let's look at this conversation. What are you people talking here? Okay. Vivek says, those who intend to get work done cast themselves on task with all possible speed. Yes. Sir, for India, which one is more important, Quad or BRICS? It's a good question. The BRICS nation are dysfunctional right now. Since Afghanistan crisis, all of them have their own interest. Economies like Brazil and South Africa, they have got nothing to do with Afghanistan, nothing, hardly anything. But on the other hand, China has got its interest because of Uyghur Muslims. Then we have Russia has its own interest because it does not, it is fine with Taliban, but it is not fine with those kind of extremism activities happening in Chechnya region. Similarly, India has got its extended neighborhood. India also has its reason. So BRICS largely is a platform for technology sharing right now. They keep on sharing, right? For example, satellite sharing data, building a GIS map, technology, all that thing is happening. But for trade ties, it is right now, it is, it is not working very well. And as far as Quad is concerned, Quad is important, but then again, this is a anti-China platform for, gaining more presence in the in the Indo-Pacific region. Not only that, they also are looking at increasing the alternate supplies, China plus one countries, right? They're looking at supply chain resilience initiative. But when you compare it with the kind of humongous growth China has, the technological prowess, the human resources capacity, the kind of stronghold it has on the market, Quad will take quite a while. You have seen this. India's trade has only increased with China despite the formation of Quad. What to do? So both of them are important at their own places. This is how you should conclude an argument. Both of them are important. However, both of them are not getting repurposed according to India's agenda. Both of them. Best short videos. Koi bolo? Oh, sir. Okay. Vakram says, Amlan, BRICS is more towards economy. Quad is multi-dimensionals. Okay. Prince. Hi, Prince. Similarly, SCO is dysfunctional right now. The interest of stakeholders are different. For example, a country like Kazakhstan, their interest with Afghanistan is different, right? Some of these people of the tribes, right? The tribes which are fighting in Afghanistan, those are from those countries also, right? The Turkmenistan, the Turks, and the Kazakhs, they are fighting against. Some of the tribes are fighting against, in the Northern Alliance, they're fighting against the Taliban. So they're not happy. On the other hand, Russia is okay with it. China is okay with it, right? So the SCO again is not operational as effectively. It is alleged that Pakistan has sold surrounding areas along CPC2 corridor, okay, to China. Vivek, I imagine how difficult to make these slides. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you for acknowledging this. Yes, I have to prove the point because you people are very smart. I know that. And that is the reason that you people will exceed. I have started to dream that you people have gotten through. I actually am daydreaming all this. That 1 year down, you people are through this examination. So yes, some credit goes to me. So thank you. Diplomatic balancing. Ravi says, after witnessing how US stepped back, will Quad hold any relevance when China attacks Taiwan? Oh, is that happening? China attacking Taiwan? Because that will be a major thing, right? I hope it doesn't happen. What else? Rajeshwari, good evening. Welcome back, Rajeshwari. Lot of time. Tama OBC says, if Putin failed, this will be very bad for India. Putin is also 69 years old. Putin is 69 years old? Putin is 70 years old, or yeah, touching 70. 1952 born. So old man, but yet, he's got his own flamboyance. They wouldn't fail. They're very strong, determined, and nobody's stopping them. That is the worst part. Rajeshwari says, "Sir, Pakistan have nuclear weapons more than India?" No. Pakistan doesn't have more nuclear warheads than India. It is almost very similar in number. I think Pakistan has got 30, India has got 60. It's around that number. But then, even if it has got one, it is still not very good for us. Kanupriya says, West is forcing India to take a stand so that it will become more dependent on them again by breaking Russia-India trade. In Russia-India trade is not as strong, Kanupriya, as Russia-India alliance is. Because Russia has been firmly supporting India all the times. So you see the catch-22 situation India is in. India does not want to break this alliance with Russia, the trust that they have. And India wants to also show the Western power that I can be quiet at these times. Right, so very well put, Rajeshwari, Kanupriya, but then it is not India-Russia trade. Please take a note. Ravi says, the unpromising role of WHO during COVID and UN during the war shows their action needs more justification. Yes, absolutely. This, whatever you have said, Ravi, this could be a question under quotes and comment. And then you present this point, present the point of Afghanistan, present what is happening in African nations, present what is happening in, during COVID times and non-presence of vaccinations. There are countries which are administrating third and fourth dosages, and Africa is devoid of the first dose for most of the people, right? Okay, moving ahead. Prince says, okay. Preeti says, China has territorial disputes with 17, 18 countries. See? And with Russia also. Okay, what else you people have mentioned here? Prince says, Sir, Shabir sir ki class kab aayegi? Please tell me. Shabir sir doesn't participate in the current affairs, Prince. Pragyan, welcome back. There is no permanent friends or enemies. It's national interest first. Yes. This has been quoted a number of times. No permanent friends or enemies, but we have permanent interests. All right. Very good put, Pragyan. Ravi says, very smart and diplomatic answer shows the presence of mind of Prime Minister Modi. These are practiced. The speeches that are prepared, the best of the best orators, they practice it a number of times. And so does the Prime Minister. They are asked varied critical questions and how to handle them. So it might seem as a very apt reply, but then they are very practiced, very well put, right? They would rather keep quiet than speak something wrong in an international fora. So it's not just Mr. Modi, it's also about Mr. Manmohan Singh, but yeah, he would largely remain quiet. So good for India. All right, BRICS and Quad, which one has the dominance? See, presently what is being heard of everywhere is Quad. BRICS, not much. Right? In fact, Russia and China have criticized India's participation in Quad. Why are you allying with those countries? All that is happening. That keeps happening. All right. Alan, hi, Anthony, welcome. Ashish says, sir, according to Arms Control Association, Pakistan has more nuclear weapons than India. Oh, is it so? Okay, then I am wrong. Kanupriya says, sir, can you explain Gwadar issue and what is India's stake in it? We will discuss this. We will understand not only Gwadar, we will also understand a couple of more ports allied to it. Right? Recent sports news. Oh, you mean Russia not getting the ownership to hold these sports, the football? Are you meaning to say that, Rajeshwari? If yes, put them down in the comments. We will discuss that as well. But then it is largely about Russia's presence. Sports is about what? Sports is about soft power. Soft power of Russia has decreased. No doubt, it has decreased in European nations. Right? So Gwadar issue with the other ports in Iran and Pakistan, we will understand them all, right? Yeah, Kanupriya will discuss that. Rajeshwari, let me know what you're speaking of. And otherwise, thank you for participation. You like this initiative enough, you share some love through likes, comments and shares. And we will see you tomorrow evening. All right. Thank you for participating. Questions, please put them down. I will get back. Thank you and prepare notes. Good night.